Let's talk about how to rank risk. This is applicable to an ISO 9001 management system, an ISO 14001 management system, an ISO 45001 management system. We're going to go through a really simple risk ranking exercise. Stay tuned. So welcome back to Best Practice TV. I'm Kobe Simon, I'm the CEO here. We're going to go through a really basic risk ranking exercise so you can understand some of the more complex systems out there. We're going to keep this really simple for you just to understand how to break out risks. Now there's two things that we obviously start with. So the first thing we're going to talk about with the risk ranking in this risk ranking exercise is frequency, or how many times something could happen. And then the other part of the risk management exercise is the consequences. So when we're ranking risk, it's really simple. Obviously, the more that it can happen, the more frequent it is, or it could happen a lot, and obviously the greater the consequences, our risk ranking goes up, if that makes sense. So we're looking at what are the consequences, how bad are the consequences, and how often. More often, more consequence, risk ranking, if that makes sense, or a higher order of risk. Now what we do see is people overcomplicating that exercise. You know, we might have a score. It might be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And then it might be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 on our frequency, consequences, or likelihood. We can exchange out frequency here and we can put likelihood. So that's a really basic way to rank risk. So something that's not going to happen very often and it's got low consequences, it's going to be a low risk down here. Even if its consequence is low, but it's very often, it can be over here where it's a low risk. But more importantly, if it's a high consequence up here, we've got frequency not very often, but it's a high consequence, our risk sits over here. So things that happen a lot and they've got big consequences, obviously the risks sit over here. Now what we can do is we can actually rub this off and we can turn this now into a table if that helps you. So what we can start to do is we can look at our frequency, we can look at our consequence, and we can draw a risk matrix, if you like. So when we have consequences, low frequency, so our scores were here 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we can start to have these tables. And they can inform our risk. So we've got low risks here, low, medium, medium, maybe medium. Now this is very subjective, and then we can have maybe medium, and we can start to get high, and then maybe extreme. Now this starts to give you the opportunity as you identify your risks to identify each risk and put each risk onto this table, and then your risks, and it might be if it's customer related or if it's safety related or environmental related or information security related, you can start to use this to prioritize your risks. Obviously risks that get extreme scores are going to be more important and are going to have more attention put to them and more resources put to them to manage them than things that are low risk. And so that's when we can start to think about our controls. So it's all about prioritizing, working out what's important and what's not so important, and using a bit of a simplified version. Now this is just my opinion in terms of setting up this matrix. It's really simple, but it's all about thinking about frequency and all about thinking about consequences, and that's how we rank risk. We'll shoot another video that talks about controlling risk, but I want to give you just a little bit of an introductory insight into that. The intention is to use controls, to use all of the things you implement in your organization to reduce your risk. We want to reduce, obviously, the frequency. So we want to reduce the times that something can happen, the number of times that it can happen, and we want to reduce the consequences. And so we can use things like the hierarchy of control. So we've got to pull down the consequence and the frequency, not just one. So we've got to think about what's feasible, what's achievable, and what our funding and our resource reserves can afford to do. But it's really simple matrix on risk ranking. It's all about supporting your quality, safety, environment and data security, information security management systems, and you start to understand what to pay attention to. So paying attention to important risks, and monitoring some of the low risks so that you can stay on top of it. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, comment below. If you want a practical example for your industry, comment below this video, hit subscribe, and you'll see us next time on Best Practice TV. Bye for now.